Hello, and welcome to Lead, Learn, Connect, where we explore the worlds of training and coaching. I'm your host, Alan Krieger. On this show, we talk about not just the how of helping others grow, but the behind-the-scenes work of building a successful business, overcoming challenges, and staying connected to what's really important. My guest today is Allexis Tuccio. Allexis is a master coach and a teacher of coaches. She focuses on a holistic approach to coaching, and Allexis is based in New York City, where she coaches and runs the Goal Imagery Coaching Academy. Whether you're a new coach, a seasoned facilitator, or just curious about what it takes to really thrive in this world, this episode is for you. Let's get started. Welcome, Alex.
Oh, thank you, Alan.
So you have an interesting story about how you got started as a coach. So why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, so I actually worked for large tech companies for a long time. And Mariana, who is in one of your previous episodes, by the way, is actually my mother. And she was coaching for decades at that point. And she actually told me, Alexis, you would be a great coach. And I said, nah, I don't think so. I'm doing great where I am. I'm helping run teams. I'm helping with trainings. I'm doing all these great things already. And my mom persisted because that's my mom. She kept telling me, go for it, do it, right? And then finally said, okay, fine, I'll give it a chance. And the funny thing was, she said, you're already kind of doing it, right? Like every time you go out there and you train a team, or you have like these big conversations where you're, what we call in sales qualifying questions, right? You're using all these qualifying questions. You're pretty much coaching the teams already. And I said, no, but I did. I finally gave it a chance. I joined in, her classes and stuff, and I gave it a chance. And I'm going to be honest, it was a hard road, Alan. I think I quit coaching maybe 3 different times. One time for like it was like a while, because it was such a difficult skill to learn. And I was like, I'm doing so good here. Why do I need this skill?
What would you say are the hardest? What were the hardest skills? What were the parts that were challenging to learn?
Oh, well, active listening is definitely top number 1 hardest skill to learn. And then coaching the language is a brand new language. So you have to learn literally a new language and how to speak. You have to ask open-ended questions. You can't lead the person to where you want them to go. And as a manager, I was used to always leading them where I wanted them to go.
Right, that's your job.
Yeah. So it was excruciating. And then of course Mariana, my mom, gave me extra tough love because she wanted me to be the best. And so the feedback was a little tougher than I think I would have enjoyed in another setting. And so I fell off the horse a few times. I got knocked off a few times, but I ultimately did get back on every time till eventually became an MCC coach. And we didn't even tell anybody I was her daughter. Nobody, not in ICF, because my mom she was an assessor with ICF and she works directly with ICF as well. And so do I now. But we didn't tell anybody actually till this year. So I've already had my MCC for several years. And the shock on people's faces when they found out that I was her daughter, because we are night and day. We are different, and yet we're very similar, which is so funny. So, became a coach thanks to my mom's persistence, if I'm going to be honest, because otherwise I never even would have known it was a thing. Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up with it and grew into it after taking a detour or 2.
Or 5, 3.
Or 5. So talk about your philosophy of coaching. We had a little conversation about that, and is that what your school focuses on, or is the school more broad? So both parts.
So I mean, the title is it's holistic, right? Executive career and life coaching. So we really have a little bit of everything that someone might be looking for. But the beauty of the way that Mariana put the school together years ago was she laid the foundation. So you can literally coach anybody on anything. And I know that sounds like a terrifying thing to say. You can coach anybody at anything. But it's true. I've had clients from like the oil industry, and I did not know anything at the time about oil, right? I had human resources. I had doctors. I have business startups. I mean, you name it. I've had them as clients, right? At this point, I've had non-for-profits, which is a whole different sector altogether of everything, right? So tech companies, music industry giant. I had one of them as my clients as well. So I think I'm still under NDA though. I think I can't say their name yet. I can't wait till that runs out so I can be like, I did that. But yeah, so so really the beauty of it though is that goal imagery puts the human back into coaching. And that's why we can coach anybody really on anything. So, and plus it's one of the few schools in the world that's not run by one, but two master coaches. So we really came into it thinking, how can we teach this from a high level so we don't have to untrain anybody with any bad habits or anything? And how can we train them so they're comfortable going in and coaching where they're interested? So, maybe you're interested in health, wellness, spirituality, executive coaching, anything, right? And so the foundation is what really counts, and then the rest is added bonus, right? So with that being said, though, with the whole holistic thing, that big, beautiful title at the very beginning is the holistic approach. So really cool fun fact, Alan, Mariana. So, okay, here we go. Ready for story time a little bit?
Okay.
So a few short years ago, I think it was even as close as a decade ago, and even still now, it's still kind of like a funny topic that comes up here and there. And so talking about emotion in coaching was practically taboo. It was like, oh, don't touch it. People are going to think we're psychologists. They're going to think, something else about us. And everybody tiptoed around it. I mean, everybody. They were just afraid to blur those lines. My mom, though, the cool kid that she is, she knew the truth long before mainstream, which was emotions are essential to human growth. We're not robots. We're not. We have emotions no matter. I've coached the most level-headed executives, and even they, believe me, have emotions. Lots and lots of emotions, right? So what she did is she went and she advocated for the use of emotions in coaching. She was relentless. She went from ICF chapter to ICF chapter. She became the New York City ICF president of the New York City chapter, right? And then even then, she was just boldly advocating. Sorry, my tongue today. For what others were afraid to even touch. So due to that, emotional integration is now considered the hallmark of effective coaching. It is now part of the ICF competencies. The PCC competencies have emotions in there. Did you coach the person, the feelings, the beliefs, right? And so it's really remarkable about how she went advocating and then did finally make it to the mainstream and the way of coaching. And so it's interesting, though, because even today, some people still cling to the idea that systemic coaching is the gold standard, which honestly, look, systemic coaching is powerful, without a doubt, right? It was groundbreaking in its time.
For people who aren't clear on the words exactly, let's talk a little bit. What is systemic coaching? Thanks, Alexis. Not everybody is familiar with the term systemic coaching. Could you just talk a little bit about what that is and how it differs from holistic?
Yeah, absolutely. So systemic coaching is essentially coaching the person within the context of a larger system, teams, organizations. Whereas holistic is more than that. It's about really honoring the individual within the context of the larger system. One more thing I want to say, Alan, is I want to go one step further and say that coaching without emotional intelligence isn't mastery. It's mechanics.
Okay, that's a good point. And I can see that holistic has a much broader range than the systemic approach. Okay. And you mentioned earlier people were afraid of emotions because we're not therapists. So what is the line between holistic coaching, where you're getting into people's emotions and digging a little deeper, and therapy, which is something different? How do you draw a boundary between those?
Yeah. So coaching is all about the present and the future. What do you envision for yourself, for your future, the best self, the best case scenario? And then we create a strategy together, me, the coach, and you, the client, in order to get to that bigger, brighter future. Whereas therapy, psychology, any of those different modalities, they really like to stay in the past. How did that make you feel when you were a child? And there isn't really a full-on, not really a strategy for the future, but outside of like coping mechanisms and maybe like some sort of resolutions, but there isn't a strategy for building an actual different future. So we're very present, and it's not to say, by the way, we don't talk about the past. It's not a no in coaching, but we don't stay there. Whereas in other, the therapeutic models, they like to stay there. They're comfortable there because there's a lot to unpack there, and all very valuable.
So coaching, one of the hallmarks of coaching is that it has strategies for helping people move forward. We do some exploring, but then we try to move forward.
Exactly. Yes, that's
So,
actually the hallmark of coaching, is moving forward. We are pushing you forward. We're pushing you out of the comfort zone so you can get to that, whatever your vision is for your future.
so let's talk a little bit more about that, because that was what was coming to my mind is um, you took our team assessment and came out as an engager, somebody who is very good at connecting with people, in touch with emotions, big picture, enthusiastic, and you kind of demonstrate all these great traits. And emotions come naturally to you. You're comfortable talking in that world. Some of the people you coach, I'm thinking, senior managers who are feeling really pressured by work and just want to, in our model, they're called the tell style. They're task oriented, work by themselves, speak as little as possible, get the job done, move forward. And they're having problems in the workplace. How do you approach the emotional side with them? All they want to do is fix whatever the problem is and don't want to dig deep. So how do you approach that?
Yeah. So, really, it's, first things first, you want to speak their language. As a true masterful coach, you want to come to them with their language, right? So that's usually in the terms of goals, performance, ROI. Those are all really important for the task-oriented CEO. They really want the results, right? And from there, I really show them how emotionally intelligent leadership um, amplifies all three different things: the goals, the performance, and the ROI. Right. And I never shame them for, not being emotionally, intelligent. Right. And I actually don't even I don't even suggest, I don't should them. Like, you should listen to your employees more. That's not coaching. Right. So instead, I might ask something um, what would happen if your team didn't just hit their deadlines or meet their deadlines, but what if they exceeded them because they just wanted to? And it's just like, wait, what do you mean they wanted to? It's a whole, what do you, right? It's like, what does that even, well, they should want to because it's more money. And it's like, it's a little bit of a difference there. And so there's a lot of, usually a live demonstrations when that happens, right? So even a little 2-minute coaching question could unlock motivation, right? And have a conversation. So this is kind of where the team coaching comes in as well sometimes,
Yep.
right? Where it'll be hey, give me your team for even 10 minutes, and you'll see what conversation pops up that you didn't even know was happening on your team. And they'll, be a little uneasy about it at first, but eventually they'll say, okay, let's see what you got, Alexis. And so I'll go in, do this little demonstration, unlock this conversation, and then that's when the leaders will realize, most of the time, right? 99% of the time I've had success on this just by a little demonstration. And they realize, okay, it's smart, it's scalable, and it's strategic. My team now wants to do what I'm telling them to do. I don't have to bark orders at them anymore. I could just have a conversation with them. So, so I've converted, I have to say, many spreadsheet-loving CEOs and C-suite executives into becoming more emotionally attuned to their teams and their culture. I wouldn't say they're 100%, but they're more.
Yeah.
More willing.
And I like that what you do is approach it from their worldview. This is a task for you to do. This has a goal. It has an outcome. This is a work thing. It's not just touchy-feely chatting. But what you're doing is touchy-feely chatting, but it has this goal. So I like that. Good approach.
Yeah.
So to me, that's one of the biggest challenges that came to mind. What I asked you about, to me, is one of the biggest challenges, how to deal with somebody who's got such a different culture and approach. But when you're thinking about the coaches you work with in your academy, what are some of the biggest challenges they face, and how do you work with them on that?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I think some of the biggest obstacles the individuals that I meet now and that go to our school now, mind you, we attract a lot of C-suite executives and people looking to make a jump into coaching. They're lawyers looking to become coaches. They're doctors, human resources, psychologists, even, right? Consultants, right? They're all trying to make the jump to do something bigger. And the number one thing that they come across is imposter syndrome. So here are these extraordinarily accomplished individuals who are bloody brilliant, Alan. And they come in with imposter syndrome, which is mind-boggling to me. Like,
talk a little bit about that again, if people aren't familiar with the term. What is imposter syndrome?
Yep. So it's basically a psychological phenomenon, in my opinion, where individuals don't believe in themselves or their achievements, or they have like maybe even a fear of being exposed as a fraud. I think that's the biggest one that I hear from the point of view of being a coach, right? Despite external evidence suggesting completely otherwise.
So you talked about quite a range of people that are coming in to the world of coaching. I think of attorneys and C-suite people as pretty, again, task-oriented, very blunt, not liking a whole lot of active listening. And that was one of your challenges too, from coming as a manager to a coach, is to learning to active listen. So how do you do it with role playing? Do you do feedback? Do you do lecture? How do you get people to switch gears from this hard driving, task oriented, crank out the work, to something more reflective and listening and more of a coach?
So the first things that we do the very first day in our school is we do a demonstration. There's you see, you believe, the power of belief. And so I'll ask somebody who here is not sure if they can be coached. And, I'll always have at least one person that goes, I think I'm going to be a great coach, but I don't think you can coach me, right? For whatever that reason is. And so I go, great, you're my client now. And we do like a 30 or 45-minute demonstration in front of the entire class. So that's usually between 8 to 10 people that are staring and watching this whole demonstration. And what ends up happening, I want to say, majority of the time, is the non-believer is now going, wow, I felt things I haven't felt in a long time. Or they're apologizing because, thumbs up. Or they're like crying for the first time. They're like, I don't usually do this, right? Because of something that hit them. Or they're just going, wow, I was able to come to an outcome that I would not have thought of if you hadn't thought it through with me.
Okay, so you have people experience the coaching process and see what the insights do and where that leads to. And so is a lot of the coursework that kind of thing, live discussion, demonstration, role playing?
Absolutely. So our classes themselves are a lab. This is where you get to come in, you get to create the experiment, see if it blows up, and I'm there with, the fire extinguisher, putting it out and going, it's okay, you'll be okay. We have Band-Aids, don't worry, right? And so the class itself is a lab where, we get demonstrations, there's live discussions. We also talk about, so it's really cool. So what's really brilliant about Goal Imagery also is I come from the corporate side of things, right? I've worked in corporate my entire adult life, and Mariana was an entrepreneur from day one. Like, I still remember back in the 90s when we had a little dial-up modem and Mariana was like, here, let's fold up flyers together so we can put them out there, And so I really saw her doing her thing, but it's a whole different mentality, or what, it was a whole different mentality. So here we are having two different mindsets coming in, me being fully immersed in corporate life and understanding corporate life, and Mariana being the forever, the serial, the entrepreneur that just knows for some reason somehow how to do that. And so the beauty is in these classes, you can ask us about anything, and we most likely, after decades of experience, have a response. And if we don't have a response, so what? We know somebody who does most likely, and we can, connect you to that person, and you can get that answer. So it's really, really cool that there's such a duality in the school where we can really do just so much. There's just so much depth in these classes as a result. And then every time there's like a new skill being taught, and then you're practicing the new skill in front of a master coach or a PCC coach that we personally trained. Not I personally trained or Mariana trained. Mariana and myself both took time on training whoever's the teacher, making sure that they are top quality. And just because they may not have the hours to be an MCC coach doesn't mean they're not an MCC level coach already. So we're very, very, it's very important for us to have high quality.
And how long does it take to go through the program and get certified or get to the first level of coach?
Yeah, so when you're mentioning first level, well, we have an intensive course, and that's about 4 months, and then we have the regular course, which is the 6-month course. And so it really kind of depends on, and that's for ACC. So there's 3 different levels. There's level 1, 2, and 3. As if we don't have enough acronyms and enough terms in our life, but here we are, right? And so here's a really. So I'm gonna share something that most people don't know, and ICF. I'm sorry, ICF, you don't do a great job of sharing this information. So here I'm going to share this. So level 1 is for your ACC. So there's 3 levels: MCC, PCC, ACC. MCC. So ACC is basically like getting your high school diploma or your associate's degree in college. PCC is like getting your bachelor's. MCC is like becoming a doctor, getting a doctorate of coaching. So level 1 is for ACC only. That's all you can get. Whereas level 2, you can use it towards both your ACC and your PCC, and eventually towards your MCC if you want to also. But ICF does not share that. So people come in asking all the time, Alexis, I have to start with level 1, right? And then I go on to level 2 later. Why did you think that? Well, that's what the ICF website looks like it's saying. No. So we really kind of, we're sharing like a big secret, I guess industry secret right now, that the level 2 certificate is like the golden goose. And then the level 3 is for your MCC, which you have to have your PCC before you even consider your MCC. What was your question, Alan?
So duration, we had 4 to 6 months for the ACC. How much more for the PCC and the MCC?
Yeah,
roughly.
So if you're getting your level 2 from scratch with us, then it's about an 8-month program. So we take you from 0 to 60 in the 8 months, which is fantastic and easy. Easy, but you still have to be at a PCC skill set by the time you're done with the 8 months. We also don't like to pressure anybody into anything. So we absolutely let you decide. If you're only ready for a level 1 right now, then again, it's 4 to 6 months, depending on which program you choose. And then you can always come back a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 10 years later, and get your level 2. And that's going to be another 5 months about.
Okay. So it's a serious commitment to get all the way through, but you can get started in 4 to 6 months and then kind of work your way back up.
Yeah. So, which is why you really want to think about it. Is this something you're just going to be using for your corporate job? Or is it something that you're going to eventually make a career out of? And then, I highly recommend if this is something that you see as a long-term goal, then go for that level 2 right away. Save yourself the headache and the stress, because ICF changes their rules every few years and they become more stringent, which I personally appreciate. I love that they do that. But it makes it harder for students then to go from one to the other. And so really kind of consider what you want for yourself in your career when you take the coaching courses.
All right. Well, thank you, Alexis. That's it for today's episode of Lead, Learn, and Connect. A huge thank you to Alexis Tuccio for sharing great insights into her approach to coaching and coaching development. There'll be more information about Alexis in the show notes and links to find out more about the academy that she runs. And if you found this helpful, please be sure to subscribe, share it with a colleague, and leave a review. And if you're ready to strengthen how you teach or coach communication, click the link in the show notes to our website to learn more about the T.E.A.M model of communication. And be sure to follow us on LinkedIn or other social media. Until next time, keep leading with intention, keep learning, and keep connecting. Thanks for listening.
Bye.